Shana Tova, everyone. I'm Rabbi Jen Gubitz. I've never been in this service. It's great to be here with you all to share some words of Torah. When Sarah opened her email, she saw the invitation. You are cordially invited to celebrate the Jewish New Year. Let us know if you can make it. Sarah sighed the sigh of all sighs. I just can't this year, she said aloud. I mean, a part of me wants to, but not this year. I just don't feel like celebrating. Sarah's father had died a few months prior. Even though he had been sick for years and had decided on his own to stop treatment, there was no way to prepare for his absence in her life. She couldn't imagine enjoying honey cake or sitting in services without the warmth of his presence. The grief and darkness was too much to bear, especially in person. What if she burst out crying? So she responded with a short message to the sender. Just not sure I can make it this year. Feels like the worst New Year ever. I can't be the only one who feels like this, right? But instead of clicking yes or no, she selected maybe. When Matt opened his email, he saw that same invitation, and Matt sighed the sigh of all sighs. I just can't this year, he said aloud. I mean, a part of me wants to, but not this year. I'm just too nervous. It feels harder than ever to be Jewish this year. Am I safe? Are we safe? Like many people every day since October 7th, Matt had increased anxiety about being Jewish in America. His whole life, he loved Rosh Hashanah, the music, the food, the family, the sermons, and the liturgy. But there was no amount of deep breathing or calming music or medicine even that could make him feel comfortable going to temple. His fear and his worries overcame him. So he responded with a short message to the sender. Just not sure I can make it this year. Feels like the worst New Year ever. But I can't be the only one who feels like this, right? But instead of clicking yes or no, he selected maybe. When Julie opened her email, she saw the same invitation. Cordially invited? I bet. Julie huffed the huff of all huffs. Celebrate a Jewish New Year? Yeah, right. They don't actually want me to come. Besides, I'm so embarrassed to be Jewish right now, she thought to herself. How can I celebrate when there are innocent children dying in Gaza? Julie had been on the front lines of protesting Israel on her college campus. She wasn't talking to her parents or her best friends from camp anymore. They had all tried to convince her to change her views, which resulted in a yelling match. She had never missed a Rosh Hashanah before. But how could she celebrate a sweet new year and hold fast to her convictions? But how could she not go? Not sure if I can make it this year. Feels like the worst New Year ever. I can't be the only one who feels this way, right? Maybe, she selected. Hannah opened her email and shrugged. She and her wife had been trying to have a baby for years. She couldn't stand to hear about birth and renewal or the prophetic story of the ancient Hannah crying out for a child. Besides, the world was on fire. Worst New Year ever. But she felt guilty RSVPing no. Maybe, she clicked. Steve wasn't Jewish, but he wasn't any other religion either. They celebrated Christmas, and he drove the kids to Hebrew school each week, played on the temple softball team, and was doing everything he could to fix that ridiculous sound system in the sanctuary. But he wasn't sure what he believed about God, and every time he thought he'd learned the high holy day melodies, the music changed. It was just too much change. The organ had reminded him of his childhood church, but the temple stopped using it years ago. He knew his family would go, but this year he wasn't sure he wanted to. Maybe, he responded. Ruthie and Michael had no interest with the election coming up and hearing sermons that felt political. They identified as conservative voters and were tired of hearing about justice. Wasn't Judaism supposed to be about values, not the ballot? Maybe we'll go, maybe not. Ruby and Brett had no interest in hearing sermons that were apolitical. They identified as progressive voters, and they were tired of hearing sermons that never pushed congregants far enough. Maybe, they responded, maybe we'll go. Maybe we'll just live stream that fancy temple in New York City. We know. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with beautiful leadership to produce that. Adi was a maybe too. He served in the Yom Kippur War. How, he wondered, how can I sit next to anyone who doesn't unequivocally support Israel? Rachel was a maybe too. How, she wondered, how can I sit in services next to anyone who doesn't question the character of the state of Israel and its leadership? Even a local rabbi who had recently become a new mom and returned to work only a few months earlier, who loved her professional calling and congregational life, could feel the pull of pajamas and snuggling on the couch with her baby. Why serve everyone else's families when she could spend time with her own? She didn't even respond to the email at all. What rabbi has time for email this year or this time of year? And if I owe you one, thank you for your patience. She did show up, believe it or not, but she got how they felt. As each person responded, they wondered to themselves, I can't be the only one who feels this way, believes this way, thinks this way, right? So first, I want to say that I am so glad you are all here, that maybe even if you thought about responding maybe, which I think is actually a soft no, I am glad that you responded yes, and so is Loveland, for those of you who responded on time. Thank you. If you are joining us virtually, I am so glad you are here too, and I am so glad to be here. And I do not begrudge those who, for whatever reason, are not present today, because I suspect that for many of us, myself included, that even though our bodies are physically present here in the sanctuary or online, our hearts and our minds are in that state of maybe, of ambivalence, of anxiety, of anger, of some apathy, of fear, of existentialism, of grief, of sorrow, of darkness, interlaced maybe with glimmers of sweetness and joy. I feel it all very deeply. If you have asked yourself this past year if you are the only one who feels or thinks or believes a certain way, the answer, I suspect, is a resounding no. You are not alone. You are not the only person here going through a hard time. You are not the only person here who has lost their job, who has lost their spouse, who is trying to support aging parents, who is parenting a child moving through difficulty, who is unsure if you can afford your mortgage anymore, who is unsure what you will do if your landlord sells your apartment, who is unsure why you have to suffer through middle school, who is unsure if you really want to do one more treatment, who is unsure if you can bear to read another news headline about the world, about Israel, about anti-Semitism, about Ukraine or Sudan, about corruption, about the election. You are not the only one who feels like our world is on fire. What a joyful vibe to celebrate the new year, right? But seriously, how are we supposed to celebrate a new year and RSVP enthusiastically to this global birthday party? And what do we do when Rabbi Eugene Borowitz states, we simply cannot get our feelings to perform on schedule? What do we do when things feel out of control, like there is no one in charge who can help us? Rabbi Abrasley shared this story at the beginning. A story in the Talmud asks a similar question. There was once a man on a journey who came across a birah doleket. Birah means palace, and doleket, that was either aglow or perhaps on fire. The ancient rabbis were asking the same question, what do we do when the world feels like a dumpster fire? Upon seeing the palace ablaze, the man in the story, they say it's Abraham, eloquently asks, surely there must be someone who owns this palace, someone who cares for it? The man calls out again, is there anyone here? Is anyone responsible for this palace? Is it possible that this palace has no caretaker? Who's in charge here? In a more familiar story, it was Adam and Eve's first day outside the Garden of Eden. The sun had set for the very first time, and darkness arrived. They had never seen darkness before. Worry set in, and they began to cry. Where had the sun gone? Would it ever return? Is our future only one of darkness? I'll tell you what happens in each story in a moment. But here's my secret answer to the universe, to all the grief, to all the ambivalence, to the darkness, to the source of all the maybes, because that's what you expect from clergy, right? Especially on the high holy days. Well, this mommy does not have all the answers. No rabbi does, and don't believe them if they say they do, because I think it's hard to see the light right now, too. I'm not always sure who's in charge either. I literally wrote some of this sermon while missiles were ablaze over Israel. So what do we do? What do we do when things feel so dark, so indeterminate, so out of control that it's hard to put on our party kippahs to welcome the new year? For the palace aflame, the birah doleket, consider the Hebrew word doleket. It shares the same root as lahadlik. Sound familiar? As in lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov, or shel Shabbat, or shel Chanukah, the word we use when lighting candles. Abraham Joshua Heschel suggests, instead of reading that the palace is on fire, we should see it as if it is illuminated, like the burning bush, not burnt to a crisp like your grill, but as a lighthouse causing us to pause and pay attention. Who's in charge? Look around you. You are, we are. We are in charge of how we shift our perspective and how we make meaning amid difficult times. This world may be a dumpster fire, but it is also full of so much light. What does it illuminate for you? What is reflected back to you in its glow? The ancient rabbis wondered what will bring Adam and Eve comfort. I relate to those rabbis serving their people in difficult times. In the diaspora, they had spent all day long reading, discussing, and debating, basically binge-watching Torah stories, trying to understand life's biggest questions. And what the rabbis do is compelling. To get Adam and Eve through the dark night, they place a flame in Adam's hands, the ritual of Havdalah, the blessing of transition and separation we sing at the end of Shabbat that casts light on the future week's unknowns. Adam is terrified. He has never seen darkness before. Who is in charge of Adam getting through the darkness? One rabbinic answer will always be God. But I think the rabbis are whispering in his ear, it's you, Adam. It's you. You can create light when it's dark. We can create light when it's dark. So maybe merely showing up to Rosh Hashanah, dipping apples in honey, and hearing the shofar is similar. Once you show up to do the thing, the ritual, the observance, the gathering, the mental shift, then maybe you start to feel ready. After all, you cannot avoid growing older by skipping your birthday. Can't be 29 forever. I'm turning 29 on Thursday. You can't avoid loss by never loving. You can't avoid the realities of our world by disconnecting from the news. You can't avoid making mistakes by never trying new things. If you're a maybe, which is usually a polite no, if you're just not feeling it, you have to fake it until you make it. You have to do the thing first to try to feel it. Because all the things, the rules, the traditions, Rabbi Borowitz teaches give us periodic reminders of what we ought to be doing. And once there, we have often discovered that despite our discomfort, we are very glad we went. And maybe, just maybe, we may even find ourselves deeply moved. The high holy days on their own will not fix it all. And we cannot on our own douse this fire. But we can try, each of us, to clean up and repair our little corner of it. The High Holy Day liturgy says prayer, repentance, and charity will lead us to that repair. Maybe, probably. But I think it's about showing up and how you show up to do the thing. It's about looking at all your people face to face, from the one who votes differently than you to the one who you just don't like that much, from the one you've known for years to the one you've never met who seems lonely or sad. A minyan, a prayer quorum, needs 10 people. Even 10 ambivalent people will do. And maybe you will even find yourself deeply moved. These days, maybe usually means probably not, but its linguistic origins implied something different. It was a word that implied possibility. So illuminate your maybe. Illuminate your maybe. As the Sephardic custom invites, let this year end with its curses, and may this coming year with its blessings begin. And perhaps the counting crows were right. Maybe this year will be better than the last. I'm not alone, 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 I'm not alone. I've forgotten for a minute who I belong to. The Mama Earth, the wind and rain, the beauty and the pain. I'm not alone. For me, the world was created. I'm not alone. To dust I will return. I'm not alone. 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 Keep singing. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I've forgotten for a minute. Keep singing who I belong. I'm not alone. The earth and the rain. I'm not alone. For me, the world was created. I'm not alone. To dust I will return. I'm not alone. I'm not alone.